stream. Today we're live with Mr. Nick. Nick, it has been a while, man. How are
Yes.
you doing today, though?
I'm doing good. It has been a while. It's good to be back. And once again, I said it last year. We're back at the greatest time of the year, knocking
Yeah,
right on the
the uh,
door.
the text I got from you at quite literally midnight on March 1st was the March Madness theme song text. So
Yes, it
uh,
was.
we're ready to go. We're ready to go for March Madness, and we're chatting some March Madness today. So we each have five teams that we think are either going to do basically outperform or underperform their expected, value or expected performance come March Madness time. I'll go ahead and let you just get a kick started off with your first team. Who do you have? I'm genuinely curious here.
Okay. So my first team, and I'm going to start with the do well. I'm going with Baylor.
Okay.
You know, I texted you about this the other night. When
Hmm.
they had their little struggle with Texas at the beginning, and we're down by as much as 14. Like maybe I kind of want to rescind this statement and put them in the underperform. But I mean, that team, they have so many different scores. Like
Hmm.
we saw it against Texas with Jalen Bridges going off for a career high 32.
Yeah.
You can go to Jacoby Walter. You can go down low
Yes.
with Eves Macy. Like they have scoring on every tier, and I think that's where
Hmm.
it's really important come March because they figured out a way to win at home, but you also see them go on the road and they battled at Lawrence. They battled against
Yeah.
Kansas. They battled at Texas, and I think Texas is a team that's really going to might overperform in the tournament as well.
Yeah.
They're a team that people overlook Baylor because they'll probably end up going in as like maybe a 3, but most likely a 4.
Hmm.
And you look at them. You look at I saw a stat. They have 6 guys who average over 10 points.
And the only team in Division One basketball that has that, correct? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure I saw
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
it's insane to think about. And you look, they just had senior day, and they still have one guy in Langston Love who hasn't played. He hasn't played since the
Hmm.
beginning of January, and that's
Right.
another guy who averages around probably right around the 10-point mark. So I mean, you got 7 guys who are averaging 10 points a game.
Hmm.
The one thing that scares me with Baylor, and it showed against Texas. I'm sorry I keep reverting back, but that was the game where they literally showed their best and their worst side. They don't know
Right.
how to play
Exactly.
defense. They don't play defense very well.
Right, and
They don't.
it's which on the bright side of things, March Madness is always when it tightens up, right? The teams
Yeah,
that are well coached defensively, like even though Baylor's not playing that defense yet, they have it in the past, right? I think back to that like Baylor national championship team. That team locked down on
exactly.
defense with Davion Mitchell, right? That team locked down on defense. Scott Drew can motivate these guys to get them to play lockdown, maybe not lockdown defense, to get them to grind it out on defense. That's what's going to happen come tournament time.
I
And the
agree.
fact that you have all these different options scoring the ball is what's going to allow you to win in March. Because if it's just Jacoby Walter, if he has a bad shooting day, you're screwed. Like it, or if he's in foul trouble. And I'm gonna get into a team later. Actually, I'll get into it right now. A team that I don't think is going to do well, and it's Purdue because of how one dimensional they are. And
Hmm.
but kind of just to go back on Baylor though, I mean, the I remember the first game they played this season, and I texted you and said Jacoby Walter is going to be a dog, dude. I mean, he is a
Yeah,
3 level scorer. He can light it up from 3 point land if you let him. He can attack the rim. He can facilitate. He rebounds like a monster. He does everything. He's gonna be a lottery pick in the NBA this year if he wants to be. I would assume he would want to be.
I would think
But
so.
I would think so as well. But Baylor, I would agree with you. I see Baylor. Their floor is pretty much in my eyes a Sweet 16. Appearance. I don't see them
Yeah,
getting
no,
bounced
I
first
think
round.
the only
Yeah.
way I could see them getting bounced early is if they do what they tried to do against Texas, who, as most people know, is a really good 3-point shooting team if you give them the
Right.
3-point shots. And for some reason, Scott Drew thought it'd be a good idea to, go into a zone. Why?
And not get out of it once they're stroking threes. That was the confusing part too. It's like when they come out and
Yeah,
they're and they bang 6 threes right away. They're just like, we're gonna stay in it. I think it's gonna work. Like,
exactly. Like I was literally watching the game with some of my roommates and my friends. I'm like, why? Like, why are you staying in the zone? You know the zone's killing
yeah,
you. I mean,
yeah,
I get you can't play man to man, but you got to have somebody that's good enough to be able to chase around Max Asmus and Tyrese Hunter. You got to have somebody. There's no way
yeah,
that dropping into a zone is going to help you because you know what they shot so well that basically shot you out of it. But in the second half, Baylor tightened up the defense and
Mhm.
basically didn't give up a field goal for almost 10 minutes of the second half, which was extremely impressive.
Right, and that's the other thing that gives you hope too, right? Going into that March Madness is that they have the ability to do that if need be. Not that they just don't care to in the regular season, but pretty much that they have the ability to if they're motivated, right? If they can lock it in, and I think they will come March Madness time. But dude, getting into Purdue, this is a team that's I obviously Michigan State fan, huge Big Ten fan, kind of the big team that the one of the top teams that I really follow, and I still just think Edie is so one dimensional. He's very dominant at it. Don't get me wrong. He is. If he's not going to be in foul trouble ever, and you're going to let him play 1v1, they will win the national championship. There won't be no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But if he gets in foul trouble, there's no backup bigs. There's none. There's no like aspect of if Edie's out, there's no interior presence. There's nobody's going to come in and score the ball, and they don't shoot the ball well enough to be able to live without Edie. I think. I mean, like pulling up their team's 3-point percentage, right? Gillis shoots
Yeah.
the ball at like 49%. He's been very solid. You have Smith and Lawyer who have been 45 and 42, but Lawyer
Mm-hmm.
has been extremely inconsistent this year. And that's my issue too, is we saw it last year against FDU, right? When Lawyer comes out and goes 1 for 9 from three
Exactly.
against FDU, and it's like, whoa, dude, we're getting you wide open looks and you can't hit anything, including the one to send the game to overtime at the end. Dude, what are we supposed to do? That's your
Exactly.
job, is to just shoot the ball. You're not you don't penetrate the ball. You're not a ball handler really. And defensively, I mean, I don't want to call him mid, but he's not spectacular defensively. I don't understand it. They Braden Smith has taken a huge jump for me. I think Lance Jones also has taken a solid jump, but even he only shoots it at 35% from three. So I think Purdue is just too one dimensional. I mean, we saw it. You lost to Ohio State at Ohio State,
I mean,
like
that's a bad, bad, bad loss.
right. And I just think over in the past 5 years they have not been a team that when they get to March they don't bode well. They don't outperform really ever. Obviously, last year was the huge underperforming, but I also think
Yeah.
that the second you have Edie pick up 2 fouls 5 minutes into a game,
It's over.
the game. I mean, they're going to stretch the game out unless.
Who's their backup big man? Who is it?
Um,
I don't watch
good,
Purdue enough
good,
to even really know. But I
good
watched it
question. I
yesterday
mean,
and
I think I'm pretty sure it's Caleb First that plays there.
okay.
Like maybe Kaufman Reen, maybe you'll play him at the
I
center.
say they
I don't
they
know.
go they go small ball once he goes
It's
out.
it's a big time small double. I mean, I don't know how big First is. I'll pull it up here. But first, I guess First is 6'10". So never mind.
Okay.
He looks smaller than that, probably because it's going from Edie to First.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so First comes in and that's your center, but First can't score the ball at all, really. I
No,
mean,
not one bit.
so that's just my concern for Purdue is if you're going to get in a situation so I've mentioned my concerns with Fletcher Lawyer shooting, right? With Edie, maybe not that he's been an issue getting in foul trouble, but if he does, you have no alternative. And my issue with Braden Smith, again, like I said, taking a huge jump forward. I don't like the guy. He just kind of rubs me the wrong way, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't deny the fact he's a great guard. Uh, but he's had a few games this season where had some bad turnover issues, and when he does, it hurts him like very badly. I'm pulling this up here. I mean, he's averaging a good 3 to 4, 5 turnovers a game. In When you get to March Madness, defense tightens up. You can't be doing that.
Yeah. And they're not like you said. They're bad turnovers. They are not an accidental tip pass or you're trying to come
Mm-hmm.
off a screen and you get a little tip ball and you're still able to recover and it
No.
doesn't lead to points off the turnover. But his are bad. They are really bad turnovers, and you can see it sometimes when they play. He gets a little too sped up.
Mm-hmm.
It happened a little bit yesterday. Yeah, I mean, I get it. They're out of Illinois. You're playing in a crazy crowd.
Yep.
But you're playing at Purdue. You started
Mm-hmm.
last year. You're a second-year sophomore guard. You've
Yeah.
been running the point for this team. You got to learn to keep your composure. And if you can't, like you said, then you know what? It's going to be a problem. And I just, I obviously we still have a good week and a half, 2 weeks left till
Right.
we get this bracket here. But if the season was to end today, like I said, if they'll lose, I don't see them losing to a 16 again.
Nope,
But if
I
they get
don't.
to that 8, they get to that 8-9 matchup. If it was season were to end today, they'd play Texas.
Mm.
I don't think they'd beat Texas. I really don't.
It's a tough matchup for sure, and it's one that I'm sure Matt Painter is not going to be happy about.
Yeah,
And it's also one that I don't know off the top of my head what Indiana State's current projected seed is. I would probably guess somewhere in that 11-12 seed range. Um, I don't know if you have that in front of you or
yeah, I
not.
can pull that up for you real quick. They are
I think Indiana State is a situation that if Purdue gets matched up with them, man, they could have some issues because this Indiana State team can absolutely stroke the ball. They also have Robbie Avila, who, as a center that can shoot the ball, could give
Yep.
Edie some really big problems. Right now, defensively, Edie's going to tear him up, right? But if you can basically just
The
double the
moment
crap
you
out of
pull him out of
Edie,
the paint, the moment you get Edey
hmm
out of the paint, it's a whole different game.
absolutely.
Whole.
And defensively, we saw it with last year with FDU because that's what they did, right? They pulled him out of the paint.
Yep.
That was their game plan. They pulled him out of the paint and they said, "We're going to double the crap out of you and we're going to force you to shoot threes." And
And it worked. It
it
worked.
worked. It worked. And I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to again. If they play FDU, I don't even know if FDU is going to make it this year. I'm sure they. I mean, obviously, you have to win your conference tournament. If you play someone like FDU again, you're going to thrash them. I'm sure, right? Because you learned
Oh
from
yeah.
last year. It's not going to happen 2 years in a row. But if you get matched up against a team that has similar strengths, right, a stretch five. I mean, I know Michigan State game this past weekend, Xavier Booker came into the first half, hit 2 threes right away because
Yep.
on a pick and pop because Edey can't step out. He doesn't
No,
want
it
to.
can't.
And yeah, so I truly think that if in a situation like in Indiana State's just kind of like that, a mid major that pops into my head with a stretch five with Robbie Avila,
Yeah.
but could give them some real issues.
No, I agree. I
Um,
think, if Indiana State, if they, run the table, right now they're projected to be an 11-10. If they run the
mm,
table, they could easily get into that 8-9 game like Florida Atlantic did
abs-
last year.
yep,
And
absolutely.
here we are. We could be in the exact same spot. And I agree with you. Purdue will win their first round game. I don't
Hmm.
see it happening. I don't see them dropping to back-to-back 16s. They have too much talent. They brought in Lance Jones. They replaced the little bit of leadership and shooting woes they had last year, bringing him in. He's been good. But like you said, if you get Zach Edey out of the paint, or you get somebody a tad bit more athletic than him that he has to guard, it's over. I mean,
Yeah.
it's over. Like last night, he had to guard Coleman Hawkins, and you could see him trying to stretch out and do it, and he didn't know what he was doing.
Yes. Yeah.
He let Marcus Damask hit a few floaters over him. He's not shifty, and
Mm-mm.
this isn't about the NBA, but that's going to be his problem in the NBA. And that's going to be the reason why people turn away from him is because he can't play defense.
Right.
He can stay in his cylinder and guard the rim and get rebounds, but can't do much else.
Right. It kind of reminds me of like an Oscar Shibwe, right? Like
Yep.
Oscar Shibwe was the same way, obviously smaller, but I think a better rebounder. And
Yeah.
he's done nothing in the league. And like you said, I mean, we're not talking about the league here, but like Oscar Shibwe, I think would be able to translate better because of his just athleticism, his ability to move better. He could defend better than Edie could, but he's unable to do it in the league. Another thing I want to mention here is I'm going to go ahead and share this tab because this is there we go. You seeing that there?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the turnover margin for teams, and this is a huge statistic come March Madness time because if you are going to lose the turnover margin in March Madness, it is very difficult to win.
Oh
And you
yeah,
see it here, Purdue is ranked 283rd in the country
that's a
in
problem.
this. That is a problem. You want to go to the teams at the top here.
I'll say I don't
You
even
know,
see. I didn't even see any other teams that looked like they're going to make the tournament in that page they were on.
right?
I
Yeah,
don't
they're
think
on
there was
page
any
six
other
there.
ones.
I mean, we're looking
Yeah,
at this. It's like Florida's there, right? Oklahoma's there. Kind of still just running through
those
here.
are teams. Those are teams that have been trending down in their past 5-6 games. I mean,
Right. I
if
mean,
the
you look at the teams around them,
Bearcats
like
don't split one up last night. Oklahoma's one
yeah,
and six in their past 7 games.
yeah. I mean, you're looking at the teams around them, like Louisville. Louisville's been getting thrashed this season. I mean,
Yeah,
they just lost by 25 to Duke. But you go to look at these teams at the top, and you get a team like Houston, a team like Iowa State, right?
Yep.
Marquette's up there. These are the teams. James Madison's up there. I mean, we were just talking about them, right? Off air. But there's a
Hmm.
chance they could end up making the tournament. If they do, they could cause some real issues because this turnover margin is something that is so valuable come March Madness time because it's
Oh yeah.
extra possessions. And the other thing you see during March Madness too is that you see teams press more, right? When it's six
Yep.
minutes left in a game, in a regular season game, and you're down 8, you might not press until 4 minutes left. March
Hmm.
Madness time, you're pressing with
No.
6 minutes. You're pressing
Yeah.
with 8 minutes. You're pressing with 10 minutes. Like, and
Sometimes you'll press, get halfway through the first half. Sometimes you already throw out a press there. See if you can steal a few easy buckets.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, every possession. I mean, throughout the entire season, every possession matters, right? But come March Madness time, it's I mean, like the $1 million, like each possession's worth $1 million, like that phrase is so
Hmm.
true. And the way we see it time and time again, teams that are just good at taking care of the ball are teams that always do well
Yep.
come. And it's the other thing that goes with that is older guard play, right? Can you have that senior leadership? Maybe not senior, but at least a junior leader. Can you
Hmm.
not have freshman leaders? Which, again, I don't want to harp on it too much, but a team that had freshman leaders last year was Purdue.
And
Look
we
where that
saw what
got them.
happened.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I just think that I think Purdue could have some issues with turnover margin. If they figure out the turnover issue, they're gonna be great throughout the season. Or throughout the if they don't turn the ball over and shoot the three ball well, which I guess that's every team, they're gonna be great. But I think those are gonna be the two downfalls to them there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's your next team
Definitely.
though?
All right, my next team. My first couple are, I'm not gonna lie, for the do well. They're kind of chalky. You know, I tried to
Mm-hmm.
make them a little bit like not too crazy, but my next one's gonna be UConn, and I mean it's hard
Okay.
not to put them there. You
Yep.
know, you lose 3 or 4 of your top guys. On a team that won a championship, that went on a crazy run, won every game by 13 plus points. I think it was in the tournament. Just
Yeah.
absolutely dominated everybody. But the biggest thing is they were able to retain 3 huge players in Tristan Newton, Alex Caravan, and Don McClingan. But not only were they able to keep them, they were able to bring in Cam Spencer from Rutgers, who has been phenomenal. He's been
Yes.
absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it doesn't help him that you have Tristan Newton on the team with him, but Cam Spencer's stats have been 15, 5, and 3. I mean, for a graduate guy who's getting thrown into a new system, for him to be able to come in and have that poise and really be willing to learn Danny Hurley's style and even take the yelling that he's going to get because Hurley's a certified crazy person, and I love
Yeah,
him
he
for it.
is.
I think he's a great coach, and to come in and do that, and he plays 33 minutes a game, and for Danny Hurley to have that trust in him, to be like, you're going to come and you're going to lead this team along with Tristan and all the other guys. I think that's huge because you look at it, Tristan Newton's probably going to be Big East Player of the Year. He'll be up there at least. He's going to be getting
Yeah.
votes for it. I mean, he's
Mhm,
averaging
absolutely.
15, 7, and 6.
Right. You'd like to
This
think
UConn team,
it probably ends up
they
being
just do
Kolek,
whatever they want. It's crazy.
realistically, right?
Yeah.
So probably ends up being Kolek, but like you said, Newton's gonna be getting votes. But sorry, continue there.
But no, it's crazy. You're just able to bring back 3 guys, played. I mean, they obviously played on that championship team last year, but they weren't the guys, They weren't
Mm-mm,
Andre Jackson. They weren't Sonogo. They weren't
mm-mm.
Hawkins.
Right.
They were almost in a way understudies to these guys. And look at it now. I think it's a
Hmm.
credit to Danny Hurley and that staff for, really believing in these guys and saying, you know what, we'll make a splash to go get some transfers, but we're not going to go crazy. We're not going to
Right.
rehaul this whole lineup. We'll bring in 1 or 2 guys, and it's worked out great. I mean, they have dominated the Big East. This is the first time that they've won the Big East outright, and I don't even know how many years. Um,
Yeah.
but I think you got to be crazy to almost say that they're going to underperform or not even make it back to at least an Elite Eight this year. I mean,
Right.
they've taken care of business. They have beaten some of the top tier teams in the Big East and in the country willingly.
Yes. I
So
mean,
I mean, I don't
Creighton
see
gave
how they
him.
won't.
Yeah, Creighton had the big win over him, right? Which it's at Creighton. It's a very difficult place to play. UConn's obviously coming off of the huge win against Marquette. It's kind of
Yeah,
a buy low, sell high situation,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, you a
Um,
little not. I wouldn't say like a an overlooked spot, but in a way, I mean, you just come off that big win. You're like, all right, we have another big game here, but
Right. You that Marquette game was one circled, right?
yeah,
The Marquette game
100%.
was one circled. Creighton's the game after that. It's
Yep.
not, it's not the other way around. And so, but no, I'm completely with you. This UConn team, they have several scorers. Donovan Clingan is somebody that, if they match up against Edie and Purdue, is somebody that can perfectly match up against them, can give him issues, right?
Yep.
And you have so many guys that can shoot the ball so well. That's my thing. Cam Spencer, you mentioned, he's averaging putting up 15 a game. He shoot 45% from three. 45% from three
Insane.
is stupid. And then obviously, Caravan can light it up. Diarra's been shooting really well as of late.
Yep.
Newton's obviously can shoot it decently. Stephen Castle is shooting 30% of the season, but as of late, he's been really turning that on. So again, these are all guys that have been here before too. Caravan obviously, or not Caravan, the Clingan, sorry.
Clingan.
Well, I mean, got a little bit of time last year, and then obviously you have your other guys that were on this team last year, right? That have done this before. They've made a national championship run. They've played in huge games before, and so this pressure that you're going to see teams run into. Again, I don't want to keep harping on it, but I'm going to. Like Purdue, right? Purdue doesn't have a single guy on their roster that's played in a big game. Right?
Yeah, no.
Because it was a 116 that you played in, and 2 years ago,
they've lost.
2 years ago, you lost 2 years ago to St. Peter's in
every double. They've lost to every double-digit seed, right?
Yeah, because you had the game 2 years ago against St. Peter's that you lost in the second round, right?
Yeah, they lost to the 15. They lost to the 16. They lost to a 4. I'm pretty sure they've lost to a 14 and a 13. It may just be like the 11, maybe the 12.
But yeah, I mean, that's just
either way. Still, I mean,
yeah. So I mean, you don't have a single guy that's played in a big game. But again, we're done talking about Purdue. Kind of.
Yeah.
UConn has the guys that have played in these big games. They've got so much March Madness experience. Not even mentioning Dan Hurley, right? Not even mentioning the experience you have from your coaching side.
Exactly.
I would agree with you. Anything less than an Elite Eight run would be shocking to me. For this
absolutely
team.
Disappointing too. Extremely disappointing if they can't get there.
Absolutely. I'll shift my focus again. I'll play the devil's advocate and go with a team I don't think is going to do well. And I'm going to go with Bama here. And we saw it. Yes, I mean we saw it last night, right? You play last night. It's just terrible. The amount of points they give up per game is crazy to me. And
over 100, right, in the past couple games.
Yes, I mean I'm going to pull it up here, but I just don't understand how you can, Nate Oates is a man of the analytics, right? Is what he is, and so he thinks you have the 3-point shot is analytically
live and die by it.
Yeah, it analytically helps you more. Okay, cool. Well, you guys give up so many points.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm looking at the regular season schedule here. First game of the year, you play Morehead State and give up 73 to Morehead State, 80 to Indiana State,
ridiculous.
81 to Ohio State, 91 to Oregon, 86 to Purdue. 82 to Creighton. At least you can understand those two because they're quality teams, right? You get as of late 105 to Florida, 81 to Tennessee. That's not terrible, right? Because Tennessee's
117.
Yeah, 88 to Ole Miss, 117 to Kentucky, 93 to Florida, 75 92 to LSU, who's not even going to make the tournament probably.
If you're going to put up 95 against a team, you expect to win. No, you give up 117 points, and you still lost by 22. I get it, Oates. I get what he's doing there. He is fully embarking in the you live and die by the three. And you know what? If that's the way he wants to play, okay. But last night against Florida, they started off 1 of 11 from 3. If you're going to live and die by the 3, you know what? You got to hit a certain point in the game where you have to shift your focus and your offense and start running something else to get your players comfortable and then revisit the 3. You can't just keep chucking them up and then find yourself down 20 points and you're shooting 2 of 15 from deep. Because guess what that does? Your march is over.
And we saw it last year too. And I know we've talked about this before. This Bama team has the exact same philosophy offensively and defensively too. Of just we don't really have to guard you. If we want, we'll just try to outscore
playing AAU basketball.
It's exactly what it looks like. And last year, this team was significantly more talented than this year. Last year, you had JQ, right? You're on that team. You had
Yeah,
Brandon Miller on
by
that team.
far.
Obviously, you still have your best player from this year, Marcus Sears. He was still on that team. So you
Mhm.
had a trio of, I mean, Marcus Sears was probably the third option last year.
Yeah,
I mean, certainly the second, you could debate whether Javon Quinley or Marcus Sears was the second option, but still, you weren't the first option. Brandon Miller was, and we all know what a shooter he was in college. No pun intended there.
yeah.
But like, realistically, you have guys that are less talented running the same philosophy. I don't understand where this is going to how you're going to get out of this, how you're going to get a different result. It's consistently giving up a ton of points. The
Yep.
second you have a bad shooting day, which it's not like they are, they shoot the ball at a very solid clip. I will say, 37% as a team is solid,
Mhm.
but I just don't see, like if Sears is having a bad day, and you have right cell that can shoot decently. Walters maybe can clip, but like you know, I don't know. Well, now on the bright side of things for Bama though, I will say Grant Nelson transfer from North Dakota State, dude's a dog. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
he's good.
certified
No,
dog.
he's very good.
Freak,
That was a great get for them.
yes, freakishly athletic. Plays really well. Doesn't shoot the three all that well yet. But I mean, he has games where he does, games where he doesn't. Obviously,
Maybe that's,
um,
where they find it. Maybe he finds it in, March, and that could very well be the difference.
yeah, no, it absolutely could be. And the other thing too is that, like what you were mentioning, is when you have teams that are so live and die by the three, you can't have, you know, you have to have an alternative. And
Exactly.
Marcus Sears can get to the rim. I think that's a good alternative, right? Like we saw it
Mhm.
yesterday, first half, he was getting to the rim. Grant Nelson can get to the rim. He can hit his pull up jumpers. He can he can get it in the high post, right? He can do some things like that. Outside of
Yeah.
those two guys, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
I
Not
mean,
much.
it is a we're on a fast break. How do we hit a three? How do we hit a three? How do we get
Exactly.
a three off? It's not we want layups. It's like
Yeah,
it's a
it's not like let's attack the rim. It's I
no,
don't
no.
makes no
It's
sense.
let's attack the rim so we can kick it out.
Yeah.
Not not let's attack the rim to get an easy two. And I mean, there's several times, even just yesterday in the game, you saw it where you're they're in a 3v1, right? And it's
Yep.
a kick out for a three. That should be a layup or a dunk,
Exactly.
right?
Or you at
And
least draw a foul. Get yourself to the
right,
line.
right, exactly. And I think that's going to be their issue come March. I mean, we were just talking about it, right? The every possession is worth $1 million.
Yep.
If you're going to be pissing away possessions, shooting threes instead of taking twos, I understand three is worth more than two. I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to logically say three is less than two, but I would take a 95% two over a 40% three a
Oh,
hundred times.
112%. There's no doubt
Yes.
about that. Because I mean, if you think about it and you look, like you said, you're getting these turnovers. What if you're in a tight game where maybe you're down four or you're down two, and instead of taking that 95% chance on a layup or a foul, you kick out for a three, you miss the three, it leads to a run out the other way, and then you're getting
Yep.
a 5 point swing there. You're finding
Yeah.
yourself where you're digging more of a hole than when you could have just taken the easy layup and got the points. And I think that's probably going to end up being a problem for them. You know, they're athletic. They're a really athletic team. They do a
Hmm.
lot of things well, but at the same time, they do a lot more that hurts than they do enough that is going to be
Yes.
beneficial to them.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're making that pros cons list, it's speaking
Cons definitely,
just in March Madness terms, right? The
yeah,
cons list is way more weighted than that pros list, right? Like
yes,
looking here again, the turnover battle. It's not terrible, right? Like it's just negative, you're basically losing by half a turnover every time, but you're 230th in the country. Like
yeah, and that's a problem.
so so that's an issue, right? Your 3-point shooting, okay, you live and die by the three, you shoot the three ball well, that typically does translate to March Madness, but not to that extent when you have the volume that you do, right?
Hmm.
Because when you shoot so much of the volume, at some point you're not going to hit, right? Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean we've already mentioned that, so it's going to be an issue. But
You also got
uh,
to look into it. I mean, with the team last year, who shot the three better than this team does this year. If
mhm,
you're playing in these bigger arenas and you're playing on these NBA, these NBA rims, they're tight. They're tight rims. You're not getting you're not getting new hoops brought in most of the time
No,
to play. You're playing on these NBA rims, which are extremely tight, not much leeway, and you have a lot
nope,
deeper of a background. So, like, I feel like at Bama, they shoot really well at home. Their gym is not necessarily huge,
no,
and they don't have a humongous backdrop behind their rim. So it makes it a lot easier for, I can't say a dead eye 3-point shooter to shoot, but it makes it a lot easier on these guys to shoot because
hmm
they don't have a humongous background that stretches back 100, 200 feet by them and goes up however high. So I don't know. I think it really depends on, like you said, if they can find a backup option to when the threes don't fall and they can somehow lock in on defense, I think they'll be okay. But I agree with you. I don't think they're making it. I don't think they're going to underperform. I don't see them going past a round of 30.
yeah. Well, it's an absolutely fair assessment there, right? And I will say this: if they're going to do well, obviously 3 pointers have to fall to an extent. I'm not saying you need to shoot 40% from three, but you need to shoot 30%, right?
Yeah,
You can't shoot like you did last night. I mean, last night they started to hit them with like 6 minutes left when they were down 30,
yeah,
but or
garbage time.
not 30, but 20. But yeah, but I think the MVP for this team, obviously Marcus Sears is going to be your best player still. The MVP though, most valuable player that's going to truly be able to like take your team to the next level is Grant Nelson. He is the guy that has the ability to, when threes are not going in, he can create offense. And
Yep.
defensively, he obviously can lock things down defensively as well. But when threes are not going in, Grant Nelson is the guy that can take Bama and say, you know what, I'm going to go get 6 points in the next couple of minutes. And Marcus Sears has the ability to do that too, but he's going to do that. We know he's going to do that,
Yeah,
right?
I mean that's something you expect.
Right. He's averaging 21 a game on the season.
Yeah,
Nobody's questioning whether Marcus Sears can score the ball. But the other guys on the team, that's where it gets questionable, right?
yeah,
Because you have somebody like Latrell Wrightsell, somebody that honestly has been one of their better players all season, shooting 44% from three. He's averaging 8 points a game. So,
exactly.
we talked about earlier, Baylor had six guys, nearly seven guys that average in 10 plus. They have four here.
Yeah,
And Estrada obviously can light it up too and facilitates really well. Estrada does, but
yeah.
realistically, I think that if Bama wants to make an Elite Eight or beyond run, it's got to be come from Grant Nelson because he's one of the guys that can give him that versatility offensively.
Yeah, no, and he also provides like a really, a great spark. If you watch their
Mm-hmm.
games when they have been getting blown out, you can see that he's always locked. Like he's always locked in. He's always giving
Mm-hmm.
it 110%. He's
Yeah.
not stopping. And maybe that's a credit to him growing up from when he was playing back in high school, whatever it is. He doesn't stop. There's a
No.
lot of times when if things start to go bad, teams go on a run, a lot of them will start to hang their head. He is
Yeah.
always, there getting everybody up, getting fired up, trying to stay in it at least. And I think, like you said, if he can start to figure it out on the offensive end a lot more come March, I mean that's a crazy difference.
Yeah. Uh no, I'm completely with you there. There is one more thing I want to show here. There it is. So this is obviously there's several stats that work when you're evaluating like teams come March Madness time, right? Turnover margin is one that's huge. Age of your guards is huge.
Yep.
Experience is huge. But as far as like a quantitative stat that you can look at, possessions per game is huge, and turnover margin is huge. And the possessions per game is like a trapezoid basically. So as you are farther out, it's paired with efficiency. So as you're, I'm assuming this. I'm kind of just explaining this for anybody that watches. As
Hmm.
you're farther out in the possessions per game, whether that's way more than everybody else or way less than everybody else, you have to be higher in efficiency to be okay. Like your efficiency has to be higher than a team that's in the middle of possessions per game because if you play really slow and you are not scoring, what happens? You can't catch up, right?
You're killing
If
yourself
you
in
play
possessions.
right, if you play really fast and you can't score, what happens? That game gets stretched out big time, right?
Yep.
So, excuse me. This is just something that's important to look at, and obviously, there's plenty of teams. Like I'm sure we could go to last year, right? There are teams on here that are still decent, right? But realistically, you look at these teams like Xavier's up here. They
Yeah.
didn't have a great run, right? Um, I mean, there's typically you find the teams that are in the exact middle of
There's
this.
Marquette.
Yeah, Marquette's right there. Who else did Kansas State did well? So they
Yep.
were in like the 40s. So you can still do well being at the top of this, but when you're at the very top or the very bottom, it can be a little bit of a red flag. And you see teams here at the top. Bama's right there, right?
Yep.
Kentucky's right there. I think Kentucky. I feel a little bit better about Kentucky because of their ability to get to the rim, way better.
Mhm.
But I mean, Arizona's up there. So these are teams that you could see really get upset. You go to the other side of this. I don't know. Did you see who was the last one there?
Who was it?
I want to I want to I want to hear your guess. I'll give you a hint. It's an ACC school.
Oh, it's got to be Virginia.
Yeah, it's Virginia.
It's
I
got to be
mean,
Virginia.
yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
Virginia's there. You also see Dayton in here, right? And Houston's in here. So
Yeah.
there's just I mean, again, I would be willing to bet that between Houston, Kentucky, Bama, Arizona, one of those teams is going to do well. So it's not like this is something to swear by, but it just means that if you're when you pair it with efficiency, right? Kentucky plays really fast. They're absurdly efficient.
Yeah.
So you can get away with it. But this is just another kind of stat to look at there. But I'm with you. I don't even. We were talking about Bama. Yeah, I think Bama could end up falling off, but I think a team like UConn, we'll see where like a team like UConn's at. They're not even on here, is what that's telling me. UConn,
Try Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
Perfect. They're at 300 out of
Okay.
362. So, a little on the slow end, but also their points per game is very high for 68 possessions a game.
Oh yeah.
Like very high. So that's another team that's efficient. So another thing there. So I've given you two teams I don't think are going to do well. I'd love to give you a team that I do think is going to do well, and it's Marquette. I
Yeah.
we talk about it all the time, right? So they're coming off of I don't want to say a bad loss. It was the loss last year to Michigan State in the round of 32, right? But
Very
as a two,
underseeded team that Michigan State team was too. By the way,
yes, but
they
as
were
a two
better
seed,
than what? They were a 7 seed, right?
yeah, we were seven
They
seed.
they were better than a 7 seed. But
Yeah,
like you said,
yeah, as a two seed coming in a tournament to not make the Sweet 16, that's an underperformance. So, no matter who
yeah,
it is you lost to, that's an underperformance, right?
yeah.
I don't care if you lost to the North Carolina team that made the national championship 2 years ago. Like
Mhm.
it's an underperformance still if that's what happens. And so I think Marquette coming off of that, they're gonna be psyched out coming into it, right? You obviously have Shaka Smart. I think he's a very intense coach. He's very, very like active. You either hate him, you either like or you love him. I'm on the love
Yeah.
him side. I think I like how active he is. I think it's hard to not like that energy, but there's plenty of people that don't. But I also think that the just plethora of scoring options that they have is something that is really just positive to see when you're looking for people to take that next step. Right? You have Cam Jones at 16, Kolek at 15, Iguodora at 14, Joplin at 11. So it's four guys all averaging 11, three guys averaging 14 or higher. So you have
Yeah.
three elite level scorers, and you have Kolek, who is probably the best facilitator in the nation, I would say. I mean,
Oh yeah.
his ability, what
Averaging
he put
8
up,
assists per game.
yeah, and what he put up 18 the other day.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so I mean, I think Marquette has the ability to really just light it up. We'll look at him, we'll find him here on the pace of play. Marquette's 141, smack dab in the middle, which is
Yep.
exactly where you want to see him. So they passed that with flying colors. We saw them at the very top of this turnover margin earlier, right? Where are they at here? They're number 6 in turnover margin in the entire
Yep.
nation. This is again, these are just two quantitative stats I'm throwing out there, but they're passing those with flying colors. So I see Marquette Final Four minimum when I'm filling out my bracket.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you look at it and having a guy in Cam Jones averaging 16 points and he's doing it shooting 50% from the field and 40 from deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. I mean, their biggest problem right now is, can we get healthy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously,
Obviously, Kolek, right?
Kolek's going to be out for the rest of the regular season. I mean, that's huge
Mm-hmm.
because they play UConn tonight, either tonight or tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, not that it matters because UConn already locked it up, but you
It
don't
could
really
matter for
love,
seeding, right?
yeah, you
Could
don't
matter for
love
seeding.
seeing Kolek. You don't love seeing Kolek not play the rest of the year. I mean, obviously Iguodala is going to be back. His was just he was sick, a little stomach
Mm-hmm.
bug, whatever. He'll be fine. But an oblique is not an easy injury to come back from, nor is it like just an injury like, oh, okay, he'll be fine. Like it can be serious. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you see people struggle with oblique injuries, they just linger. They linger around, and
Yeah.
if Kolek, I'm not, I hope he'll be back by tournament time. I think he will be. I don't think it's that serious. I think it's more precautionary. But if he's not back to facilitate that ball, Marquette's a whole different team.
Oh yeah.
I think
Oh
they're a
yeah.
completely whole different team because, he plays 33 minutes a game. He averages 15, 5, and 8. And like you said, he facilitates the ball, and it makes everyone around him better. There's
Yes.
sometimes you have a point guard that can facilitate the ball and, get the passes, get the open shots to his teammates. They don't always hit them. And I feel like just the way he's so shifty and, he's able to come off screens and look to shoot, and sometimes they'll come up and double and try to do it, but he can also drop it down to Godaro. And, without him, I think that completely changes who they are as a team. And
Yep.
that could eventually be a problem. Like you said, like if they fall to a two, if they are a 2 or a 3 seed,
Yeah.
you never know if you get a 7 or a 10. It could do the exact same thing as last year if Kolek's not 100%.
Right. Or if you end the season kind of rough and you end up as a 4 or a 5, and
Yeah.
now second round you're not playing a 7, you're playing a 4 or a 5,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some dangerous teams you could see in that range, right? So no, absolutely, I agree. The other thing too is that you're playing 2 games in 3 days,
Yeah.
and that's something you don't do in the regular season at all.
Nope. Nope.
Obviously, I would be surprised at all if during the Big East tournament they say we're not going to play you because we don't want you. We
Honestly,
don't want to.
I wouldn't play him.
I wouldn't either because in a Big East tournament you're looking at 3 or 4 games in 3 or 4 days, and that's your goal, right? If you're playing him, your goal is to win the Big East Big East
Yeah. I
tournament.
mean, maybe if you get to the semis or the championship without him playing, and
Mm-hmm.
you really want the title that bad, maybe you throw him in. But if they reevaluate him after this Xavier game on Saturday,
Yeah.
and they're like, it's iffy, there's just no reason to. Like,
Right.
there's no reason to absolutely squander your chances at a title come April 8th if this guy's not on the floor because you decided to hurt him playing a quarterfinal or a semifinal game in the Big East tournament. I mean,
Yeah.
people go look back at it. All right, it's really not that big of a deal. And okay, you won your conference tournament.
Yeah.
You're getting the stamp of approval that you're automatically in the tournament. That's about. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's about all I see it as. I mean, there just would be no
And
reason to do it.
it's a lot bigger issue for those mid majors, right? Obviously,
Yeah,
when you have Furman winning their conference tournament, they're main to their end. Cool.
yeah,
For it matters. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it doesn't matter.
yeah. No, it
But
matters, but
when
like,
when your eyes are on a national championship, a potential national championship, that's way way more important than any Big East tournament, right?
100%, 100%.
So, but yeah, no, I think Marquette's if Kolek's back and healthy, I'm locking them in as a Final Four team. They'd have to get a really really shitty draw for me to sit there and say I don't think they're going to make it to the Final Four. So that's just my opinions, though.
And I
Do
think
you have any teams that you
they've
don't
already
like?
proved too. My team, I have
But
2 written down. I'll just mention the one, but I'm going to go more in depth on the other one. I have 2 written down. My first one is Kansas. I think we all
okay.
know that. And my only main
Hmm.
talking point on this one, I'm not really going to go into it, but they don't know how to play on the road. They don't know how to win on
Yeah,
the road.
no.
Um, you obviously saw them in Maui. Then you're going to go against Marquette. Marquette handled. And then you see them in the Big 12 on the road. They're, I think, 1-7 or 1-8. One of the two. Either way, it's not good.
Yeah.
Not
Hmm.
good. They don't know how to play on the road, and they don't have the shooters, nor do they have the guards to play and actually be successful come March. And I think you look at it with a guy they brought in like Nick Timberlake. He was the CAA Player of the Year last year. He was supposed to come in and be fantastic 6 man of the year type in the Big 12, and he's done nothing.
Right.
So for me, I don't know. I like Kansas. I think they have good pieces, but they rely on like four guys to score. So I don't
Yeah.
see them doing much. But my team that I had circled probably since the end of December, and maybe it's because as a UC fan, I'm a little sour that they beat the crap out of my team, but it's got to be Dayton. It's got to be
Mm-hmm.
Dayton. They are trending down so hard when you look at their schedule and what they've done in their past couple games. It's not great. In their last four, they've only beat Fordham by 8 at home. Their last five, they go to George Mason, they lose by 4. They played Davidson at home, they win by 14. Okay, Davidson's one of the worst teams in the conference.
Yeah.
You go to Loyola Chicago, who, no offense, Loyola Chicago, they're right on the edge. They could be a bid stealer. You lose by 5, and you had
Mm-hmm.
every chance to take that game. Every chance to
Yep.
take that game, and then they go to St. Louis and they win by 17. Too much up and down from them. They're not staying consistent, and you can see it. They're starting to slowly drip and go downhill, and they're not putting up nearly as many points as they were at the beginning when they were scoring like 96, 100, or whatever, and beating
Mm-hmm.
like the crap out of these teams. And I think it comes down to the point where they're relying way too much on two guys, and those two guys are Deron Holmes, who will probably be an AP All American, probably not first team, but he'll be getting the looks for it. And then Nick Santos. They rely so heavily on those two guys. I mean, they have 3 guys that score over 10. Deron Holmes averages 20, Santos averages 12, and then one of their smaller guards, Kobe Brett, who's only maybe 6 foot, maybe if that, averages
Mm-hmm.
10. So the problem with them is they rely way too heavy on two guys. And I think if you look at it right now, I want to say they're a 6 in bracketology, and I think they're 1 win, and then that's it. I don't see out of them. Um, you know, no offense, so I'm not saying they're a bad team, but we've seen this song and dance with teams from mid majors. That they basically run the table regular season and in their conference,
Mm-hmm.
and what do? I mean, obviously we had San Diego State last year, credit to them, but this team is nowhere near the level of that San Diego State team from last year. I think
Yeah.
they got too hyped up. Dayton did early when people were like, "Oh, this is just like the Obi Toppin era back then." Blah blah blah. They were top 15 team. No, they just don't do it for me. They just really don't do it for me. They rely way too much on a center to get the job done, and they fill in the cracks here and there with some timely 3-pointers, but I don't know. I don't see Dayton doing it unless they get a really favorable draw.
I would agree. I think Dayton is a team that you play in Indiana State as a 6-11 matchup, and in my bracket,
Yep.
Indiana State's a team I'm picking. Like
Yep.
that's like the kind of matchups that you're looking at, and there's probably 2 to 3 of the 4-11 seeds that'll be there. I guess realistically there's 6, right? Because you'll have the first 4 ends.
Yeah.
But realistic of those 6, there's probably 4 of those 6 teams that I would probably pick over Dayton.
Oh
And
yeah. No, definitely.
like, and when you have a 6 seed like that, it's just not great. I mean, Dayton play is bottom 15 in the nation in pace per game, right? And when we talk about
They
trapezoid,
play
that's
slow.
that's bad,
Very slow.
spectacularly slow, and their defensive efficiency is like around 100th. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm not so sure that if you're playing that mid of defense and you play that slow, I don't necessarily think that you can. They're 19th for offensive efficiency, so definitely solid for offensive
Yeah.
efficiency. But like we said, you're playing so slow. Defense is very mid. I would agree. I could. I'm not going to be picking Dayton to get to the Sweet 16. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Whatever 3
There's
seed they're
no way.
playing, that 3 seed, if they're a 6 seed, right? If you're a 7 seed,
Yeah.
whatever 2 seed you're playing, I'm comfortably chalking them through.
Oh
Comfortably.
no, if I'm that 2 seed and you see them as your 7, you're very happy. because
Yes. Yeah.
you know some you look back at some of the games they played. You know, back in December, their biggest game on the schedule besides Houston was when they played Cincinnati, and they beat them by 14. But they
Mhm.
literally won the game because two guys had more than two-thirds of their points. Ron Holmes had 30, and then Kobe Bryant had, I believe, 24. And that was
Yeah.
it. They had no other scoring options. And if you get a team that has any remnants of a big guy that is semi-athletic and can guard, you're taking Deron Holmes out of the picture.
Yep.
You're taking away more than a third of your scoring for a team. And, I'm not saying that they can't do it. They could. You never know. But I just that's what scares me because when he struggles to score, aka against VCU when they lost on the road and only put up 47 points
Yeah.
because VCU was able to shut him down, they're almost non-existent. And I think that's where it's really going to come into play. Like you said, if they end up playing that 2 or 3 seed, which they're going to, the talent gap is going to be night and day with some of these teams.
Yeah. Kind of as one final team here, I'm completely in agreement with you with Dayton. As one final team here for me, and then we'll get into one final team for yourself here. My final team's Houston to do well. Um,
Yeah,
I I just don't see. We've talked about having multiple scores. We've talked about all these different things. I'm going to run through some stats here. Number one in the nation in defensive efficiency and turnover margin. Those two things translate. Defense translates when you get to the March Madness. They're bottom 15, bottom 20 in pace of play, but because of their defensive efficiency, you can get away with that, right? Offensive efficiency, right? That's the other thing that really matters when you're talking about pace of play. They're 26th in the nation. So your top 30 in offensive efficiency, your number one turnover margin, number one defensive efficiency. You're looking at these things that translate to March Madness. This is a team that is not reliant on the three ball. They can shoot it, but they're not reliant on it at all. I see Houston, you know, I see them making a huge run. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Houston comes home with a national championship this year. I think realistically, I don't know where they're at like odds wise. I'll look it up
gotta be
right now.
top, gotta be top 3 or 4, right? I would assume.
Um, I would like to think so.
I mean, if
Uh,
you think about it, last year, um,
it's
they
UConn.
literally they had a great draw. If you look at it
Yes.
last year, they caught a really hot Miami team at the wrong time.
Yep.
I mean, if you take that game away, there's a extremely high chance that they're in Miami's spot and they're playing UConn to go to the title.
Yes. Yep. I think they. I think
Very
they.
very high chance.
I think if they don't deal with that red hot Miami team, they're going to go beat Texas, right? Then in the Elite
Yeah,
Eight, I think they do that. I think the UConn game they actually test UConn, unlike UConn was tested at all, right?
yeah. I mean,
Um, Houston's currently the second favorite, so UConn's the favorite, Houston's
yeah.
second, Purdue's third, and then it goes Arizona, Tennessee, UNC, Auburn, Kansas, and some
I
other
don't think
teams
there's
in there.
bad value in that top. There's ones you said, except for Purdue and probably Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas is 2,000.
Yeah.
So plus 2,000. So realistically, the drop off's probably big enough. And Purdue's 700. So I would agree. Purdue, I don't like if you want something at that similar value, Houston's 650. Like,
Yeah.
give me Houston over
And
Purdue.
you have and you're a lot more, feel a lot better about Houston than you do with Purdue by far.
Right, right. Houston, if you get to handpick, if the other team gets to handpick a player to get in foul trouble, okay, cool, we're good.
Yeah.
Whereas
I mean,
Purdue, you handpick a player to get in foul trouble. Obviously, you're choosing ED, and it's like, whoa,
yeah.
this team is like, you take ED off of that team, they're a 5 seed, 6 seed at best, I think, like at absolute best. So,
It'll be
um,
interesting to see how they fare next year when he's gone.
yes, absolutely, it will be because well, Painter's got another 7 foot white dude coming in, right?
He
Like
does, yeah.
he
Isn't
he
he like
he
7-2
always has
or
a
something?
dude.
He's like,
He's
yeah, it's
he always has one, dude. So he's got another one coming in. But Edie's been spectacular there for him. So
yeah,
I mean, dude, Purdue kind of just last comment on them. That team 2 years ago, dude, that lost to St. Peter's was so good. Like I can't. You have Ivy, who was a top 5 pick. He's doing well in the NBA and freakishly athletic, perfect college build. He's doing well in the NBA still. You have
Yep.
Edie, who's was a crazy good big. You had Travion Williams still, who was
People
just
forget.
I mean,
Yeah.
Treyway was a dog, and you still managed to. I mean, I had Purdue in very far in a lot of brackets, and
Yeah.
I was pretty upset when they lost to St. Peter's. But so Houston's my last team. Who do you have as your last team? Are they doing well? Are they going to underperform, overperform? What do you got for me?
I got 3 teams left on my do well. And honestly, I one of them is a mid major. But I'll leave. I'm gonna pick this one now. I'm gonna talk about it, and then I'll shout out the 2 after. I won't go in depth with them because one of
Got
the
it.
teams is obvious, and then the other one is like, okay, it makes sense. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
going with the Arizona Wildcats to do
Mm.
well. I
Okay.
think, most they brought back a good amount of this team, who one has a very sour taste in their mouth last year after blowing that game to Princeton. And then you also
Yes.
bring in 2 very, very good transfers. And a guy who played for a national title in Johnson, and then his numbers talk for himself with Caleb Love.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
mean, you got a guy who knows how to play for a national championship. Then you have a guy who was basically exiled from anything North Carolina basketball, was given the blame on everything, even though his numbers weren't bad. People just had to blame somebody, so they threw the blame on him. He left, and he tried to get into Michigan. Wasn't, his grades weren't good enough to get him in, which is probably the
Mm-hmm.
best thing that happened for him, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That team's
Yeah.
absolute dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's on a team that has that winning mentality, that has played really, really good, went on the road, beat some really good teams. And, you look at them right now, they have 5 guys who average 10 or more. They have
Green flag.
a guy who averages over 10 rebounds, another guy who averages right below 7.
Green
And then you
flag.
got shooting splits from 3 that are 37, 43, 37, 40, 54, and 45.
Mm. That's nice there.
I mean, you look at this, they have everything. It's really going to come down to is, I think last year, not trying to take shots at Kerr Kriisa or Kriisa Kerr, however you say it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he's a
I,
good point guard, but at the same time, you can just tell in the way he plays that he's like, it's like he jokes too much. Like he doesn't always seem to
well,
care.
Well, I like kind of what we were talking about earlier with Tyler Kolek, right? He's a guy that is going to score the ball at a high efficiency and he's going to set up his teammates, and you are a better team. Like if the 4 other players in the team are better when he's on the court. I don't feel
Mhm.
like Kirk Kriisa did that. I feel like
No,
Kirk Kriisa, yes, he's going to hit some step back threes. He's going to have some fun, right? If you're looking for somebody that's going to make the crowd, like be a crowd pleaser, he's your
yeah.
guy, right?
Yeah,
He's
he's the
perfect.
type of guy that, he may hit a shot, he puts his hand up to his ear to try to get,
Yeah, right.
I just you look back at it and you're like, Caleb Love is just such a better replacement to run that point.
Mm-hmm.
You pair him up with Boswell, and it's just, you saw it against Duke. Those 2 single handedly won that game for them against Duke.
Yep.
And I think that Tommy Lloyd's got this team under wraps. They took I'm not even a bad loss, but they took a loss at home to Washington State. It could be a sneaky team in the tournament, but this team is ready. They're hungry. They're mad. They got that sour taste in their mouth after, being on the West Coast and then blowing, a game in the first round to a team like Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be their year to where, they obviously play a fast paced tempo of ball.
Mm-hmm.
They try to score a lot. The defense is iffy at times, but I think they have enough people on this team to where, they have good enough depth to where if somebody gets in foul trouble, they can, plug and play with somebody from the bench. And I think they're definitely good enough to go at least lead a Final Four, maybe even in the national championship game.
uh, I agree with you in these numbers that I've been not swearing by but using all day. Right, have do as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're number 4 in possessions per game. Right, so we talked about how that could be a red flag, but you have to be efficient when you do that. Right, yeah, they're number
Yep.
5 in offensive efficiency, so that
Yep.
works because they're which That is a combination that is really, really dangerous to play against because you're looking at a team that is going to run and they're going to score. So they're
Yeah, exactly.
efficiently running. That means you have to beat them at their game essentially,
Yeah.
but
Those
you
are the
have to be
teams that go
efficient.
on those big runs.
Yeah, yeah, that's a team that can go on a 30-4 run in 6 minutes because
Just like
you
that.
just can't hang because you just can't hang with them. Their pace of
Yep.
play is too quick. They're starting to hit some threes. Oh my goodness, that 6 point lead just got stretched into 23. Like, so this is a team that obviously the offensively can do that. Defensively, they're 22nd in the nation in defensive efficiency, so not bad at all.
No.
At turnover ratio, they're top 70 with a +2 turnover ratio or turnover margin per game. So you're winning the turnover margin. Your defensive efficiency is very, very solid, top 25 in the nation, and you're top 5 in the nation in pace of play and offensive efficiency. Those are numbers that are going to translate. I like Arizona here as well.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, just look at their stats right now. They only have one guy that plays over 30 minutes, and that's Caleb Love. Everyone else is
Mhm.
28 or lower. So they're trusting him to play 30 plus minutes and do what he does, and he only averages 2 turnovers a game. I mean, and that's their highest. That's not that bad for a guy that was supposedly, the cancer of this team. Even though you look back on it, and I'm pretty sure he was the reason Carolina made it that far and made it to the national championship game, if I'm,
It was
not mistaken.
right.
But
Yeah, I absolutely.
I just I don't know. I feel like Arizona's being like a tad bit overlooked.
Hmm.
People think they're good, but then at the same time they're like, oh, they give up so many points. They gave up a ton of points to Stanford and lost. Like it's college basketball. Every team's gonna have nights like that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a bunch
Well,
of
and
kids ranging from 18 to 22 years old. Like, it's gonna happen.
the other thing too that you have to realize is that every kid that plays Division 1 college basketball in high school was lights out, unconscious
Yeah.
player. So when you play, I mean, they have the ability to go. I mean, if you watch these guys in practice, I guarantee you give them 20 wide open corner threes. The guys that are shooting 40% in game are going to hit 15 out of 20 in practice,
Oh yeah,
like
no doubt.
minimum, right? So if you're going to, play against any team in Division 1 basketball, that's why March Madness is what it is, right? You have teams like Florida Gulf Coast. You have teams like Middle Tennessee State, right? I hate to
Yep.
bring that one up, but
Yeah.
like you have teams like that can come out and just stroke the three because they have guys that can. Next thing you know, oh yeah, you just lost to a team that you're way better than, but there's nothing you even could have done. But no, I think the other thing to that is kind of the reason Arizona gets overlooked is it's a sim. I mean, obviously same team. They play the same exact style as last year. That
Yep.
you lose to Princeton. Obviously that sucks, right? And it's ruined a lot of brackets, a ton of brackets last year. A lot of
No,
people aren't going to pick
definitely
them again
ruined
just
mine.
because of that. Yeah, yeah. I remember that in our
Oh yeah,
little
ruined it. Absolutely
yeah.
torched it.
But I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't going to pick them again because of that. Don't shy away from that. Use that as a motivator. Look at this team as a team that's got fire in their eyes. A team like Marquette,
Yeah.
same way. A team with fire in their eyes because of what happened because of what happened last year. Purdue also is going to be a little bit the same way, right? You were the second 16 or second 1 seed to lose to 16 seed ever last year.
Yep. Exactly.
I would expect them, rounds 1 and 2 to come out and thrash people. I could see them losing Sweet 16, but not Arizona, Purdue. Arizona,
Yeah.
I agree. I think they're going to have a difficult. Obviously, there could be one where Arizona ends up as, maybe they end up as a 3 seed or maybe they're a 2 seed and Duke's their 3 seed. That's going to be a tough matchup to get to the Elite Eight. You know what I mean?
Oh
So,
yeah.
as a Sweet 16 matchup, that's going to be a really tough one. But either way, I really like them. All the numbers check out. On the efficiency sides, the points per game, the rebounds per game. You're consistent in every aspect of the game. That's what you need going into March Madness. So I'm with you there.
And then I have two more that I think will do well.
I'm curious to hear your
Ten-
mid major.
Tennessee,
Yeah,
obviously Dalton Connect. I mean,
Dalton
that
connects a
team is
dog.
solid. As long as he doesn't get in foul trouble, I think you're
Mm-hmm.
fine. They'll go
Yep.
far. But
Also, you have
and
Zakai
then
Ziegler this year too. That he was
he's going to be
big miss
huge.
from last year because I mean that last year team you could tell they were without their point guard. Right? You have Vescovy, who's
Who
good, but
struggled this year.
he has
If he finds it come March and you can get him back to averaging around 12 points per game, shooting at the clip of 45 plus in the tournament. Whew.
Mm, that's
I mean,
dangerous.
that's going to be a team that'll be hard to beat. But he has struggled this year. He only averages
Ziegler,
7 points per game now.
yeah, and well, Ziegler's one of the best facilitators, and if you're going to give him Connect and Vescovy to facilitate two,
Oh yeah,
if Vescovy obviously can turn it on, which we know he has the ability to,
yeah,
and he's been here before, so it's not one of those where he's gonna crumble under the big lights. He's crumbled this year so far, but it's not like the big stage is going to kind of scare him. But I'm with you on Tennessee. Dalton Connect scares me a little bit if he does get in foul trouble. Who would score? But he's
yeah.
good
That's
enough.
that's like
If
the big problem with them.
Yeah, but he's good enough. If he's playing, they're good.
Who
And
do
then
you
you said you
think
have a mid
my
major.
mid major is going to be?
Okay, so it's not Indiana State, right? Because we've been talking about
No,
them. You haven't mentioned them. Um,
it's not like
I
a high. It's not like a high tier mid major. Like it's not like one of the higher mid major conferences.
so okay, so it's not
I
like an
couldn't even tell you. I
FAU.
couldn't even tell you what conference this team's in. I couldn't
Oh,
even tell you
great!
that.
And you're expecting me to be able to guess them right now?
Yeah, I actually have no clue what conference.
Yeah. What is it? West Coast, East Coast? Give me some sort of location,
Uh,
or do you not even know? So that tells me that
um,
there's not like a state in the name. Um,
oh no,
oh
there is.
man,
There's the state in the name.
oh,
West Coast.
West Coast. Is it Washington? It's not Washington State because they're in their Pac-12. I don't know. I'm
No.
stumped here. Who do you have here? Is it
McNeese
Utah Valley? McNeese. Okay.
under Will
Hmm.
Wade.
Yeah. I. What seed do you think they're going to be? Probably that 12 to 14 range.
Yeah, I think if they, go on a tear
If
and
they're
absolutely just wipe the floor with their conference tournament, which I think they will. They're definitely good enough to. Um, I think they could I don't think the committee would put them in that 11 game. I don't think they would. I think they'll probably be a 12, and it'll kind of be like it was last year with Charleston, where you're in the 5-12, and everyone's like, all right, pump the brakes. This could definitely be that upset. But I mean, year one to just do what Will Wade's doing, it's really impressive. This is a team that
um
has four guys average 11 plus, another guy averaging 9, and I mean, I don't know,
McNeese
it's
State
just
is bottom 100 for pace of play, but they're actually number 17 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. So they're efficient on both sides of the ball.
they're led by. I mean, my only problem with them is they are small. They're going to be one
Mhm.
of those teams where if you get the wrong matchup, not like a Purdue matchup, but if you get the wrong matchup and
Right.
you're playing a team that's a lot bigger than you but still athletic, they're going to be in trouble because I mean their leading scorer is their point guard. He's a senior transfer, Shahada Wells. He averages 17 points per game, shooting 48% from field goal. I mean, he's the heart and soul of their team. Without
Yeah.
him, this team probably wouldn't even be considered for even looking at an automatic bid to the tournament.
Right.
But I mean, you look at them; they're 27-3. Every team that they've played this year, they thrash. I mean, they really beat the crap out of the teams they play. I mean, I know obviously
It
they're not good teams, but they got some good
yeah.
out of conference wins. Like, I mean, they beat UAB. That's not a bad team in
Mhm.
the American. That's a team that's if they get
That's a
hot
team
during
that
the
played in
American
the
tournament,
that's a team that played in the NIT last year if I'm not mistaken, I
yeah,
believe.
they beat VCU at VCU first game of the year by 11. They went to Michigan and beat. I mean, Michigan's bad, but beat Michigan by 11.
Yeah.
They don't have bad losses. Like you look and they don't really have many bad losses. I mean, yeah, they've slipped up a time or two here, but I think almost every game they've lost has been on the road. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the problem with them is
But you
they
only have
can't
three
win on the
losses on
road.
the year. It's not
Yeah,
like a Kansas where you're 1-8 on the road. It's a you have three losses on the road on the season. It's gonna happen. You're gonna at some point you're gonna play a team that's shooting well at home. The crowd's into it. You're not shooting great, and you're just gonna get run out of the gym. That's all right. It's gonna happen sometimes. But this team gives me a lot of Charleston vibes. Like in
yeah,
every of last year, everything is a dude. This is gonna work. This is gonna work. This is gonna work. Charleston had a little bit of a tough draw last year. I believe they had Virginia, right?
San
Um,
Diego State.
no, they had San Diego State. That's right. That's right. Um, so I mean, obviously we saw what San Diego State did,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
so a lot of people picked Charleston over San Diego State. That burns them. I think that McNeese State, as long as they don't get in a really, really difficult, if they don't get really screwed by that 4 or 5 seed that they play,
yeah.
I think they probably get a game. And if you get a team like this, you get a game. We see this in March Madness happen, right? Loyola Chicago, like 7 years ago. You
Yep.
get a game. Now it starts to get dangerous because when you get that second, that third, I mean, we saw it again last year with FAU and San Diego State. You get that
Yeah.
second, third, and it's like, whoa, this team's starting to streak now. But I like that. I like that McNeese State little shout out there.
Yeah. And when I say do well, obviously I don't want people thinking I mean they're going to go Elite Eight, Final Four. I think
Right,
do
right.
well for a team like that is getting one win, in the tournament and
Yeah,
getting
it's
to the round of 32 and even putting up a good fight in that game. I don't mean,
right.
we're
Realistically,
going.
it's winning a game you shouldn't win, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. I'm pulling up bracketology right now and see who they play. Okay, so their first round game would be against Auburn.
I
But
I
that game right now, I mean, obviously we know places they're going to play. That's completely crazy. But if they were able to play Auburn out in Spokane, Washington,
That's what I was just about to say. That game's not going to be in Auburn. In Auburn, that's where Auburn's, their
yeah,
first loss at home was to Kentucky, what, 3 weeks ago in
yep,
February? So, like, at home, they're spectacular. On the road,
yeah.
definitely not. I love that spot for McNeese, especially if you can get the West
But
region
yeah, I
there.
think, like you said, if they get that 4 to 5 seed range, I think they're very, very beatable 4 and 5 seeds. I mean, you got Clemson.
Mhm.
They could probably beat Clemson. Clemson's been trending down. They're a roller coaster. They
Yeah.
lose by 10 and then they go and win by 15 like yesterday they did
Yeah.
against Syracuse. But I mean, you look at it, they could play BYU. Okay, if
Mhm.
BYU doesn't shoot like they're like an Alabama type team. If they don't make 9, 10 threes a game, then they're in trouble.
Yeah. I
Then
mean,
you
hell,
also
the
look at it
Bearcats
like,
beat
oh
them. Like,
yeah, exactly, and their own
if
gym.
if if the Bearcats beat them in their own gym, geez, anybody can
Exactly.
beat them.
They could also play Alabama if they drop to a 13 seed. They could beat Bama.
Yep.
They could beat. I could see them beating San Diego State personally on the
Yeah.
neutral floor.
Yep.
So I mean, for them, it's really all about the draw. So that's why I didn't want to necessarily put them in as one of my main ones for do well. But
Mhm.
I think they still need to be acknowledged and highlighted upon because they get a half decent draw. They could somehow do something with. Kind of
Yeah.
like how Furman did last year when they got the draw playing Virginia. That got
Mhm.
them a win. And for Furman, that's doing well in the tournament. That's
Mhm.
a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than that, though, this has been good. Obviously, we're gonna be back next week on Wednesday again. This is gonna be a weekly
Yes.
thing on Wednesdays. We're gonna keep ripping off some teams that we like. Obviously, 2 Wednesdays from now, we're going to be back. It's gonna be the night of the first four. So what?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll try to work that out. So maybe we have games
Yeah, when it
starting
starts
at
Tuesday, right? Is
yeah.
the
So
first.
Tuesday and Wednesday will be first four.
Yeah.
So maybe we can work it out where as we're finishing up, we have a first four games starting or something. But
Yeah.
we're going to be back at least next 2 weeks, and then obviously the following week then would be after 3 weeks from now. We're right in the mix of it. That'll be
Oh man.
after the
I
first
can't
two
wait.
rounds. Nick
I
and I are
can't
going to be in
wait.
heaven.
It's
But
it's the best.
this has been really good though. So Nick, I appreciate you coming on, and
Yeah.
we will see
Thank you
you
for having
again in
me.
a week. But this has been Sports Geeks Podcast. They play, we talk. Thank you guys for watching.